without further ado, today's guests, who you came to see, not me, we will have Senator Agard is here, Sarah Smith from the Dane County Board of Supervisors, and then our new superintendent is here as well. So we'll have them come up and give their updates first. Then Jason Fields from MadRep is here, and he'll give a presentation in the middle. And then we'll have the esteemed city council people over here bring us home. So thank you very much.
We in Wisconsin have been struggling with extreme gerrymandering for well over a decade, and because of the recent Supreme Court ruling, as you all know, we do have new maps, and our full assembly is up for re-election and half of the Senate. So all of the even-numbered districts are up for re-election right now. And that is causing really no one to be in the Capitol building. It's very anemic because folks are out campaigning. Literally for their lives. And to me, that is one of the best reasons for the Capitol to be quiet right now. You know, I think government absolutely needs to be working for the people and for the will of the people, but I very much believe that this is going to provide an amazing reset for the state of Wisconsin. So we have very important elections coming up a week from yesterday that have two constitutional amendments on the ballot. And hopefully folks in this room have done their research on those constitutional amendments and understand the implications of them. But ultimately, they are partisan power grabs. The Republican majority in the legislature was not able to get their way when it came to a lot of the COVID pandemic relief money that was coming from the federal government. And Governor Evers continued to do the right thing. We are all here because of safety measures that were put into place, and the Republicans don't want the governor to be able to have the ability to distribute that money if there is another emergency in the state of Wisconsin. So that's the impetus of these two bills. And it would take the power away from the executive branch in Wisconsin in cases of public health emergencies and emergencies. So I personally am voting no on both of those amendments because I'm grateful for the leadership we had in Wisconsin and the checks and balances that we already have. There are a number of elections. I know you guys in Monona have been very impacted by the redistricting. You're going to have brand new senators and representatives here. District numbers are even changing because of the reset in the legislature. So I encourage you all to do your homework. And if you haven't voted, you can go and vote early at a polling place right now. And if you're like me and you like to go to vote on the actual election day, please go and vote on the 13th. And you'll see my name on the ballot. I'm taking leave from the state legislature. I feel a little bit like I'm on my farewell tour. I know most of the time that we've spent together has been on Zoom meetings, but it's lovely to be here for my last meeting as a state senator in person. I'm running for Dane County Executive to take over for Joe Parisi, who retired from that position. So this is a special election that is on this ballot, and it's an odd thing because the county executive is a nonpartisan race, and this is a partisan ballot, right? These are partisan primaries. So this race will be on the backside. There are 4 amazing people running for this seat, and the 2 top vote getters will move on to the election in November. So please do your homework when it comes to that. Thrilled to be here. Wish that I could say that there is more happening, but again, I think the reason why things aren't happening is really good for democracy, and we'll reset the state of Wisconsin and provide a lot more opportunity for our local governments. And in Monona is on that list. Happy to take any questions. All right, Sarah, it's yours.
All right. Well, I sort of similar to the senator. The county slows down our meeting schedule in the summer, so we have half as many county board meetings through July and August in particular. So we have also fewer committee meetings because the committee meetings feed resolutions into the county board. So everything kind of slows down. So we are also in a bit of a slow time, but the I don't know if this is the reason we always are slow in the summer, but it is a nice little reprieve until we get into the budget cycle. So that's the kind of the update I wanted to provide today, is just kind of where we are in the status for the 2025 budget. And in particular, walk through some of the dates, because as of Friday last week, the board chair and the executive decided to shift the schedule for this year's budget cycle. So everything's happening sooner, which is nice for some reasons, but also means now we're, kind of trying to catch up a little bit and make sure everyone that might have budget amendments or things they want us to consider know to submit those kind of as soon as possible at this point. So the first thing I'll mention is on the county executive. So we currently have an interim county executive. So prior county executive Joe Parisi stepped down on May 3rd, retired from public service after many years with the county. And so at that time, the county board chair, Patrick Miles, became a kind of temporary county executive for 3 weeks, and then appointed Jamie Kuhn, who's now serving as our county executive. And one of the reasons that we decided to shift the schedule of this budget cycle is related to some of the timing of when the election of the new county executive will be happening, and then the signing of the budget and all these things. Typically, the process would put the signing of the budget and potential vetoes by the county executive kind of till late, like mid to late November, potentially at the time when we have now a brand new county executive, like a day or two into being sworn in. And so it just seemed like we would be putting them in an odd position to sign a budget that they had no role in, as they had just gotten elected. So that's one of the reasons that we've decided to shift this schedule. So County Executive Jamie Kuhn has also been working very closely with the board. So we've had some additional transparency into the budget process this cycle than we typically have had. That's also helped make sure that items that supervisors might want to see in the budget are accounted for, so we don't necessarily have to do everything as amendments on the board floor when it gets to us formally later in the fall. So that's another kind of change to how this process is going this year, as opposed to how it's gone, at least in my previous budgets on the county board. So a couple of the things that I thought in particular for the public to be aware of are, we always have a couple of departmental public hearings. So these are moving up. Everything's moving up like 10 to 12 days or so. So September 11th and September 12th, we are having departmental public hearings. And the executive is going to transmit the budget to the board on September 18th. Typically, that's October 1st. By statute, it allows it to be as of October 1st, but it can be earlier than that. So that's where we decided to shift it and have the executive do it a little bit earlier. So the executive will be sending that to the board on September 18th, with the ultimate goal of the county board deliberating and voting on the budget October 30th. Or November 4th if needed, if we don't reach a resolution on the October 30th day. So there's, of course, a lot of standing committee meetings in between there, but all those standing committee meetings are now being rescheduled based on this shift in schedule, so we don't have the specific dates of when every standing committee is going to have their budget meetings now, but it will all be basically kind of end of September to beginning of October for those standing committees, and that's where we talk about particular budget items specific to some of the committee work. I'm on the Environment, Ag, and Natural Resources Committee, the Land Conservation Committee, the Extension Committee, and the Executive Committee. So those will all be areas that I will primarily be focused on, but of course the entire budget will come to the board floor after it goes through the standing committees. So that's a real quick overview of how the budget process is going to go and some of those shifts in timelines. So in particular, if you are aware of, projects or nonprofits or initiatives or things that you are looking for county funding to be adjusted around, feel free to reach out. We are in a bit of a tight budget cycle, as is everybody in local government at the moment. So it is looking a little bit like a cost to continue budget, not as much maybe leeway. We don't have the federal money coming in that we had through CARES dollars and ARPA dollars that came in through some of those pandemic era federal acts. So a little bit of a different cycle that way too, but if there are requests, we can always consider them and discuss with the board. So please let me know if you have any of those items that we should consider for the budget.
No questions for you, huh?
Doesn't look like it. Great.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Frederick. I'm the new superintendent in Monona Grove. And yeah, thank you. So it was named in April and then had the long wait to get to July 1st. So we're here at day 38-ish. So my family and I did relocate. Prior to this, I was the assistant superintendent and then interim superintendent in the Elmbrook School District outside of Milwaukee. We did just move to Cottage Grove, so that's been a good experience for us and really welcoming community. So it's been great to get to know people. We did just release my 30-day updated plan that you can find on the district website, but it's really involved just really spending time with people, meeting with them, hearing their perspectives on the community, the school district, because we know that every person in the community, whether you have children here or not, or you own a business, has a vested interest in how are we educating students so that they can have every door open for them, and then also not just academically, but from a social emotional aspect, really ready to be that next generation that I have a lot of hope and optimism for as they continue to grow. So we just really welcome anybody that wants to meet or has thoughts, would love to meet with you. You can just call the district office and we can set up a time. I know there's many faces in this room I've either met with or have pending meetings with. And I just want to recognize Katie Burns-Kaiser, who is our communication director. Many of you know. She's done a wonderful job of really creating that match between the community and myself in this first 30 plus days as I've getting to know just the area. Many people have asked me why I left where I was to move and come here, and I really have to say, been looking at superintendencies for a couple years, and then there was that thing called the pandemic that really didn't make it feel like it was a good time to leave somewhere I was, and I was there for 17 years, and really great experience, learned a lot, and really was looking for a community that really strongly believes in public education and really knows that that's the one place that all students and all youth and families have access. And this community really speaks to that. There's deep care for public education. Like any community, there's lots of thoughts about how it should happen and what should happen. That's fine. We can talk about that. But the bottom line is just that belief and knowing that that's a really pivotal space. So grateful for that. And then Greg Benz is here, and he is our career and technical educator and community partner. So really when you're thinking about what does your industry need in the future, or what do you perceive, is where things are going to be headed, we really want to partner with the community to really talk about what are you seeing are the local needs. Because how do we make sure that our kids are seeing those needs, understanding those needs, so as they pursue whatever's next for them after compulsory education, they've got the skills to have a high quality of life, and we really want those students to come back and live here. It's been really amazing to hear all of the people that live and work here talk about how they grew up here and they went away to college, or they went off and did something different and then came back. And that's what we want to continue to see, not losing our next generation to other communities or other states. So it's really important work, and we want to partner with the community to think about how we further that. So look forward to talking with people and meeting with people and thinking about how we continue to grow that pipeline. So, yeah, any questions? Oh, Susan, yeah.
Yes. One of the things that Tanya's done since she came, so within just weeks almost before she came, our director of business services took another position. And so, and then she's been working on the HR position as well for us. And you know what that's like when you're in that transition piece and you're new in the community. I thought maybe you'd like to mention your new assistant superintendent,
Sure.
because this person actually has family connections with the community that's interesting.
Yeah. So part of the one of the things that was an opportunity as I was coming in is we did have some open positions. So really thinking about what are the needs of a district, and you really got two areas, right? There's the academic side and what we're doing for kids, and then there's the operation side. It's a multi-million-dollar operation, and you're dealing with public funds. So really thinking about how are we making sure that we are using every every aspect of the organization side from a business perspective to make sure that we're doing the right things for kids in a fiscally responsible and sustainable way. So as we were looking, as we had a business director position open and an HR position open, really looking at what is our opportunity to think differently about that. So we did do a restructure the school board approved in May, where we hired an assistant superintendent for business services. And that person is Kristen Sobozinski, and her dad was Phil Sobozinski, who was a superintendent in Monona Grove, I believe in 93-ish era for several years. So kind of life comes full circle. So she's working diligently to close out the books for all of you that know that July 1 date. So closing out the books and working on the budget for next year. So we're really happy to have. She's got 22 years experience in public education on the finance side. Before that, she was in the private sector. So lots of business level experience, but then applying that from a school district perspective, which is a little bit of a niche area, and there's very few people that have a high level of experience in that continue to work in that field. So we're very fortunate to have her. She is happy to meet with anybody to talk about that aspect of the organization also. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming and giving us these updates. This is great. Next, we are honored to have Jason Fields here from Madison Rep, Mad Rep. If people don't know, it's the Madison Region Economic Partnership, and they have tons of information on their website. I use it quite a bit. So if you don't know, hopefully he'll give you an introduction to their organization. And here you are, Jason.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. All right, I'm just making sure I start my clock. I'm a former state representative and had a chance to work with Melissa, Senator Agard, who I consider a dear friend. I was surprised she didn't tell you all about the time she got mad at me.
One time? We came out with
We really did. Now, she's actually been a dear friend and enjoyed working with her on all the things that she's done. But let me just hit start, because every once in a while I go into this Baptist preacher mode thing, and this will turn into a sermon, and you'll all be here like. So if you hear me say I'm about to close, that means it's 2 more minutes. So my name is Jason Fields, President and CEO of Madison Region Economic Partnership. I'm here with the person I call the boss, Jana Moore, who runs the organization. She hates when I do this kind of stuff. Raise your hand, boss. So if anything goes wrong, that's who you call. And wanted to just touch base with you on a couple of things of where I see what we're doing, where we're at, who we are, and then hopefully some opportunities for you all to begin to potentially explore and start to share the word. So for those of you who don't know, MadRep, we are one of 9 economic development partners for the state of Wisconsin. We serve 8 counties, roughly approximately 1 million people. And our goal as economic developers, basically what I say is we ask and answer this question: is our region a great place to live, work, and play? If the answer to that is no, then what do we need to do in order to get to a yes? And sometimes the answer is yes, we are a great place to live, work, and play. You look at a number of statistics, data support. People are moving to our region. It's one of the best places consistently, I think, for 2 years in a row. The region, particularly Madison, Dane County, one of the best places to live. You look at U-Haul trucks between Milwaukee, our region, and Madison. More people are taking U-Haul trucks and coming into our region. And so, at some point, what we have to do is, and this is what I've said, and I think this is what our job is at MadRep. It's not about Monona versus Madison or Fitchburg or Verona. It's a much more global approach now, you all. It's now our region versus the North Carolina Research Triangle. It's our region versus Boston. Massachusetts, when you look at Boston or Massachusetts has more colleges, you have Cambridge, Harvard on one end, MIT on the other. And so that's the competition. It's not us versus each other anymore because nobody is looking at that now. And with the inventions of AI, the internet, transportation, things getting better and faster, you're 45 minutes in, maybe an hour at most in any direction. You start looking at transportation patterns, you have people coming from South County to Dane County. And what you're starting to see is people going, hey, I don't want necessarily the hustle and bustle of a Milwaukee or Madison. And so you start to see places like Monona, Fitchburg, Verona, places coming up going, hey, I can get the same kinds of access and things that we need with the same kind of quality of life tied to all the research, tied to the business potential. So now we're looking at our region as, okay, this is a good place for us to be. If we want to start a family, this is a good place for businesses are starting to come. You all may have seen the news where our region was designated as a tech hub, $49 million. We also, MadRep also partnered with the Milwaukee Water Hub when we're looking at getting a designation again as one of the water tech hub or capitals in the country. And so basically what you see us doing is positioning ourselves to compete. So last year, 2023 was just a year for us, MadRep. So if we look tired, it's because all of 2023, we did our comprehensive economic development strategy. And that is basically, we are mandated by the federal government to come up with a 5-year strategy that asks the question, where are we going? What are we seeing? What are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And so we went to each of our counties and we held SWOT sessions and looked at, well, where do we want to go? Where do we want to be? And out of that came, here are some of the things that we want to focus on. Reducing barriers to workforce participation, accelerating strategic business growth, and cultivating strong talent development. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that wherever we went, and I'm sure you all see this here, that the top 3 issues, housing, transportation, childcare, I don't care where you live, where you go, that in every county we went to, those were the issues that tend to pop up the most. And so what MadRep is doing is, number one, we had started a pilot transportation program. We had some vans. We partnered with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and that was to hopefully encourage business owners and business groups to have their employees travel, whether it be from Dane County to South County, but we subsidized these worker transportation vans. And for us, it accomplished a couple of things. It was healthier for the environment, and 2, we got people to work. And it was less money for the employers and the workers. So the goal was to make sure that employers would take a look at this. And so we've been developing that a little bit more. Of course, you all know a lot of this stuff comes down to funding. And I think one of the supervisors said earlier that now where we're at is the fun time is over, right? We had a boatload of money coming. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but people were making it rain everywhere you turn. Those days are gone. We are now getting back to tight budgets. Where's the money going to come from? And how innovative and creative can you be? And a lot of that depends on, well, it's not always what you know, it's who you know. What we're finding, particularly in the business community, is that when the ARPA dollars and CARES dollars came out, there was a strong focus on startups and people who wanted to get into business. And what we heard from other individuals was, while that's great, what happens to those of us who we survived COVID? We made it through, where was that help for those of us who, who had to go through all of that too? And so I think what you'll see, and I'll touch on now, is some of this shift of, let's start looking at programs who people don't know about and start to talk about these programs so we can begin to get people in the pipeline. So opportunities for small businesses, and these will be my next few slides. Couple of things that I think hasn't been talked about enough. and that is the Inflation Reduction Act. I spent 2 days in Milwaukee with a bunch of economic developers across the country. And you all, the amount of money in dollars set aside for small businesses around the renewable energy sector is insane. But no one knows about it. And so what we've done at MadRep was we hooked up with Kathy Kuntz, who was at this event. And I don't know if any of you were there. Were you there? Kathy, what I would encourage you all is at some point maybe have Kathy come show a presentation. Jan, I think we may have a presentation we can shoot to you all. But the amount of money for business owners to get potential grants, funding solutions for their businesses on renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, it's an insane amount of money. And when it comes to this stuff, the reality is that we don't have enough people that know about it looking at it. And so one of the things that, again, I would say to you all is take a look at that on Dane County's site, and then also look at the state. And we'll keep you abreast of some of these when they come out. Purchases for clean vehicles for business purposes. Again, a number of tax credits and grant dollars coming to a lot of these initiatives. The WDC Green Innovation Fund, it's a new fund. I'll actually be meeting with Deputy Secretary Sam Rickers next week, I believe, sometime, and to go over a number of announcements that they will be coming out with as far as programs for small business owners. So again, I think you all are on the cusp of having the right time, because you're going to see more programs like this being talked about more and more programs being launched. On a state level, if you haven't looked at WEDC's website, I would ask you to go to that, because they do have a number of resources, and they typically are on schedule when it comes to making these announcements and showing you what you need to do to apply for these particular grants. The latest announcement that they've come out with is a small business development grant. And they haven't come out with how much that grant will be. I think they're still working through some of the details, but if I'm correct, that will be announced and launched, if not later this month, early next month. And so again, I think a lot of the focus is on the fact that when we came out, I mean, many of you may have heard of the Main Street Bounce Back program. It was $10,000 grant for startup businesses. Again, our organization handed out roughly $12 million. And one of the things we said, again, was, hey, this is great, but what about the people who've already had businesses? They've been sustained. They're looking to grow and expand. From an economic development point of view, if I invest in your business, any of you business owners, if I invest in your business and help you expand, now that's creating some sustainability for Monona and for our region and for our areas. If I can get you to, particularly, there's a rule of thumb that the magic number is roughly, you should be making $250,000 in sales or income. At that point, now you're able to begin to hire people and expand your business. Now, if we can start making sure government programs are assisting those kinds of businesses, we reduce the risk, and then quite honestly, the return on investment is a little bit higher. So that's the discussion, and that's where we're starting to try to take some of this stuff. So I want to ask you all and encourage you to visit WDC's website for some of these programs. Another opportunity, 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay. So our region, we're what you call part of the big three. It's MadRep, Milwaukee, and New North and Green Bay. What we've been looking at doing is formulating some kind of, you all know we love our pilot programs and our weird names. What did we call it? I don't know, the cheese wedge or something like that. And it's not the coolest name, right? Although we could work with it. Milwaukee, Madison, and Green Bay, what we're trying to do now is let's start looking at this entire region and stop being so separated and segregated and going, how can we begin to work together? Because when you look at those three areas, all those regions, we produce maybe 85% of the business that comes out of here. And so when you start having the NFL draft, what they're looking to do is now they will be holding sort of opportunities for vendors to get plugged into the NFL. And so that's something that we want to share with you as we get more information, because what I've been asked and charged with is, Jason, can you take a look at how we can begin to look at some of the supply chains whether it's with the vendors draft, whether it's with the tech hub, whether it's with the water council? How can we begin to plug in some of our smaller business owners with some of our much more larger employers and procurement individuals and international business coming here? How can we bridge that gap and make sure that there's communication going two ways between the small business owners and those bigger ones working on some of the supply chain issues? And opportunities to get involved in the Madison public market. That's one of your favorites, right? Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot. You want to tell them about the public market? She's going to kill me after this, but.
Just wanted to, as you're being creative, if you're a business owner, to think about that. The Madison Public Market, I believe, is set to open next year. They're still doing construction on the building. But for like food-related businesses, that's a no-brainer. So something to definitely keep in mind.
And then the last to final slide, what we've been doing at MadRep is looking at, we made a number of data acquisitions. And we won a program RFP from the city of Madison, a $300,000 grant. And we're going to be selecting businesses and ultimately to look to expand those businesses, either through, can we connect you with the right network, right mentors, and some small capital. I've stressed a number of times, and I'm going to try to keep my passion here, and I've said this before, and people have gotten upset, but 90% of the stuff that I see dedicated towards small businesses is just not necessarily well thought out. If you don't take a holistic approach, it's not just about giving capital to people. I can give you capital, but if you don't have a network of people who can help you, then that capital won't be maximized. So what we want to do is, let's get you some capital. Let's also put you in contact with mentors, people who've been there where you're going, and a network surrounded with not just other small business contemporaries, but potential bigger companies who maybe you can deal with or strike up a relationship with. So it's a much more holistic approach, and that's what the Biz Ready program is about. And so what MadRep is doing with WDC, the conversation we're having is, while that Biz Ready program is just specifically towards the city of Madison, can we expand that and make it for our whole territory? Because there's no reason for us to just settle with just one location. Let's deal with the state, let's partner, and maybe they can match some of these dollars. So now we're not just giving small grant dollars, but now we have a system where you can get capital, you can get network opportunities, and you could be surrounded by people who can help you grow. So that's the much more holistic approach, the way we do it at MadRep. And so what I would say to you all is, I know I covered a number of items, but I want to make sure that you all we'll get a lot of that information to you, Christine. But what I would stress is we should definitely have Kathy Kuntz come here if she hasn't, and then look at some of those other opportunities, because I think the number was around, it was $1 billion for the Inflation Reduction Act, and no one really knows about it. And this is for small business owners like yourselves. And so I believe with that, I'm at 15:31. They said 15 minutes. You can go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social media. And also, we're doing more what we call attending and developing ED Pro sessions, where we'll come to your community and we're trying to look at public-private relationships and networking events. So we just did one. We did one at Paola Dairy, and then we did one in Verona. The next one, I believe, we're going to be somewhere maybe in Janesville. But we want to start getting around to regions, and I would love to do one here, Mayor, and Monona and Christine. So any questions? Could be about anything. Doesn't necessarily have to be about business. I like talking about politics too.
We'd like to welcome the mayor, the city planner, and the city administrator up, please.
I'm Mary O'Connor. This is our city administrator, Neil Steck-Schulte, and Doug Plowman, our city planner and economic development coordinator. So we're going to take team here. I'm going to talk about a few more just general news. Neil is going to address I guess you can talk a little bit about the budget, most of all our upcoming operating referendum, and Doug will talk about economic development. So just a couple things, as Senator Agard mentioned, primary election coming up next Tuesday. Monona residents who would like to vote prior to the election can do so at City Hall from 8 to 5 through this Friday. After Friday, you won't be able to vote early in Monona. If you're new to Monona, need to register to vote, or have any other questions about the election, you can go to the city clerk's page at mymonona.com, and we've got all the information there along with the ballot and anything else you might need to know. Little update on San Damiano, the beautiful property that we purchased on the north end of the city a few years ago. The city and the Friends of San Damiano are continuing to work on determining what to do about a four-season facility there. City Council approved a master plan for the property earlier this year. We're also in the process of developing a new memorandum of understanding between the Friends and the city. But right now, we're investigating pluses and minuses of either renovation of the existing house or a new event facility. There's a lot to look at if we go either direction. Harry Whitehorse International Wood Sculpture Festival took place there in June. I don't know if any of you got a chance to stop by, but it was really an amazing event. We had artists from all over the world, ran 9 days, and I can't remember what the number was. Thousands of people went through over the course of the week, and they're already planning another one for 2026. And finally, Celebration on the Shore, which is the annual fundraising event for the Friends of San Damiano, is scheduled for September 14th, and you can find more information about that at sandamianomonona.org. Our National Night Out is coming up, and that's the same day as the election, actually. City Monona Police Department sponsors that from 5 to 7 on August 13th at Winnequa Park. Going to have a lot of things for kids, and MedFlight is supposed to land during the midst of it, and so it's always fun. Family event, free hot dogs, chips, and water for kids. So that same night, it will overlap with the Friends of the Monona Senior Center's final concert of the year, which will begin at 6:30. At the Dream Park Shelter. That's featuring Orchestra Cel Sol del Mad, a Latin band which features Shalene Zarate, who is the host of WVMO's bilingual radio show, Conectados. And food and beverages will be available there. And then finally, the City Council passed a short-term rental ordinance a year and a half ago at this point. Taken a while to get that ready to go, but it went into effect on July 1st. So most recent numbers we had was there are 35 short-term rental properties in Monona. I think a few people have changed their business plan since we passed it, but it was kind of the Wild West in Monona because everybody around us had an ordinance. So a lot of people were coming here because we didn't have anything to regulate it. So we're hoping that helps get things under control a little bit. And I'm going to turn it over to Neil to talk about the budget a little bit and the referendum update.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, this is we're switching order here, so we end on the more fun stuff. So I get to talk about the not so fun stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and just grab the copy of this and hand those out. Obviously, I'll certainly kind of hear the theme on the budget going forward, as you've heard from folks here. We are. Not that we're exactly living high on the hog, I guess, during ARPA funding, but we are back to a point where we are, Monona has been in the situation where we have been restricted in terms of our revenue generating ability by our levy limits and our net new construction for multiple years, for quite some time. Last estimate came out for this past year. Our net new construction was 0.45%. I think we were second lowest in the county, I believe, in terms of that. And that's not because there's no economic activity going on here. It's because we're landlocked and we don't have the ability to suddenly go out and grab cornfields and keep just adding tax base on the edges of communities, as many other communities do. So in order for Monona to do that, it usually has to be a redevelopment. So it has to be increasing density, it has to be increasing, basically the assessed value on the existing footprint that we have has been kind of our challenge as we go forward. So for multiple years that we've had very low, I guess a low window of growth for the budgets. This coming year was certainly going to be the same. We've kind of predicted, we knew that net new construction number was going to be significantly low again. So we had basically come to did all the analysis and looked at it and really felt out of all the revenue options that the city has taken a look at and other things that it was really needed to take time to go to an operating referendum here this fall. This is something certainly school districts are certainly much more familiar with, I think, than municipalities. But it's simply at a point now where we are at a point where we need to be able to exceed that limit in order to keep up with the expenditures that the city's having. I always have to remind folks that all of the same material costs, fuel costs, labor costs, all the things that you're experiencing in your business, the city also experiences. We are always, I think city councils have historically tried to be a little bit more and try to keep us on the last ones in a lot of times to try to offset that. And one thing before is something we certainly take very seriously, and certainly don't criticize the requirement to have to go and ask our voters to do something like this. Many of our own employees live here in the community, so they're essentially looking at the exact same tax implications that all of our residents are. So we certainly take that. The other thing we take very seriously is we understand that there are individuals on fixed incomes that this is a significant impact to them. So we certainly do not take it lightly. The reason, that's one of the main reasons we did a community survey to kind of ask about what sorts of things and what level of support residents may be willing to consider. We essentially had three options. One was pretty much a cost to continue. We did recently, folks have followed this. I think last time we talked about our compensation plan and study that we had done for our employees. Found like over 51% of our employees were not even in the minimum of the targeted, basically the competitive labor range for the Dane County market. And that had started to kind of manifest itself in terms of losing employees. We lost our entire, I think it was November last year, we lost our entire snowplow crew in November. So we had our senior person get hired in a neighboring community for basically a lateral move for $17,000 a year more for the exact same job. When they told him, "We're great to have you on board," he goes, "But we still need to get you a couple more." He says, hold on, wait a second. He picked up the phone, called his two coworkers, and they end up going over to the same employment with him. So obviously tough to do that. And the main thing that's very problematic is certainly it's always, folks know how it is hiring folks and how tough that is to do now these days. So basically we end up getting someone with less experience for the same or more money back in, and to be able to perform basically a lesser job or lesser efficiency than the person who was in the job before. That's not a good formula for sustainability from a labor force standpoint. So we did go out, we asked basically three different levels. One was a cost to continue. The other two, options 2 and 3, indicated a couple of different additional positions, whether that would be a traffic enforcement officer, a firefighter. We talked about communication specialists, a sustainability coordinator, different levels of types of positions where we feel there's definitely a need in our city operations. Option 1 was viewed for a cost to continue to maintain services. We received about a 59% approval rate. We basically had, we actually ended up with a very good reply. We had 23%. The experts tell us we needed 10% to really have it be statistic and be an accurate predictor for the community. So we were very excited with that. I think some good signs. We had, I think there's probably was 86% of residents who owned their home were made up a majority of the respondents. And I think the other notable thing was that almost 45% of them were 65 and older. Those are folks who probably have a tendency to be a little bit more hesitant to approving referendums, and the fact that we got the level of support we did on those, we feel is a good indication that there's likely to be support. I say likely to be support. There's a long time between now and November. Things can certainly happen, and other things can go. The other thing I want to make very clear that if the City Council has started this process based on these survey results to actually proceed with that question, we've had one meeting to discuss the question about a $3 million referendum. The next one we'll be back for a second reading on August 19th. But by doing this does not absolve certainly us as staff, or I think I'm not going to speak for my elected officials in this case, but I think Mary is going to agree with me on this. This does not absolve us from still trying to find other revenue streams. This does not absolve us from trying to find cost savings and other operations and other efficiencies. We're continually still going to keep trying to do that and identify more creative ways to try to get revenue in. Even if the net new construction number suddenly changed, I think we were at $2 billion. Was that our valuation mark? I said the other day. So in order to even get a 1% growth, you have to have like a $20 million project just to get 1% growth in our ability to raise revenue. So $20 million projects don't really fall out of the sky, even when you have green fields and other things to develop on. So it is a difficult situation for municipalities. I think we are going to be the first of many and they're looking at more of just a general operating referendum. I think some other communities have done some public safety referendums here recently. I think Oregon, Fitchburg, I think Middleton may have done one not too long ago. But we're hearing more and more for even, I'm formerly worked for the city of Sun Prairie, who's got nothing but cornfields around them and can grow theoretically as far as they want to. My understanding is they may be looking at an operating referendum in 2026 because their expenses are just outpacing the revenues. So it's probably something that, we always need to try to be better locally, but there's probably going to need to be at some point some sort of legislative relief at this at some point. So who knows? We'll see how things go. This is kind of where we're at for right now. We are very appreciative of the survey response and efforts that the community has done. We are, certainly going to be out in the community and sharing the information here for the next several months and trying to make sure and answer questions as much as we can. This is an ask of the community. We understand that every individual household is going to have to make this decision as to whether or not this is something they need to do. The other question that has come up in terms of if this doesn't pass, what will we be considering? Would probably result in some fairly dramatic cuts to services and staffing. We have not developed a formal list at this point, but certainly as department heads, we've had discussions on what some of those things might be. Probably would be some things that would be very noticeable in terms of services. Everything from garbage collection to hours at the swimming pool, hours here at the library. I mean, other things that our community definitely, I think, comes to really appreciate as being things of why they've moved to Monona. We are limited in our ability to look at our public safety budgets for a variety of reasons in terms of how things are funded. And we're already at
That's over half of our budget.
and that's over 50% of our budget. And we're already really in a lot of ways already operating in a fairly lean position anyway, so it would not necessarily be something we'd really be that interested in doing probably anyway. And just in terms of number of patrol officers and number of firefighters and EMTs we have on staff at any given moment anyway. So we're optimistic at this point from the results in the survey that we hopefully won't have to consider some of those things, at least the more dramatic things going forward. But certainly that always remains a possibility. So in addition to already having staff that's kind of tight on time and limited, so now we've got them preparing 3 budgets in terms of going forward. So not only are they just doing one on a regular schedule, you got each of my department heads now has to prepare 3 different scenarios in terms of what may happen on that first Tuesday in November. So, so with that, certainly, more than happy to have any questions. Hopefully, if you got a copy of the handout, great. Certainly, feel free to reach out and ask any questions that you may have. We have the website certainly is going to probably be our main source of getting information out there and sharing it in the community. A lot of it's already existing information. It's just reminding folks that it's out there in terms of what our budgets are and what bills we approve and kind of our financial transparency. All of that information is always available, but just reminding folks that it is always out there for consumption. And we're certainly looking forward to any ideas or any suggestions anyone may have. So with that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Plowman. So.
Thank you. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Doug Plowman with the city. I got some development updates, quite a lot going on, and certainly building on discussion here of redevelopment opportunities that we have here in the city. So just this Monday night, the City Council approved the General Development Plan and Precise Implementation Plan. A lot of words there. Basically, the planning documents for the redevelopment of the Village Lane site on Owen Road. So that's the Village Lane's the former bowling alley, but also the USPS retail strip center there as well. The plans have been updated since they last came through. They went through Plan Commission and were unanimously recommended for approval and now include 237 residential units across 2 buildings as well as 2 phases. These will be 5-story buildings with units ranging from studio all the way through to 3-bedroom. And that was approved by council on Monday, and we'll have an ongoing discussion with the Community Development Authority regarding a TIF ask as well for that. Additionally, we have Topgolf have proposed a development of a 72-bay facility at the western portion of the WPS campus, so closest to the Beltline and just off of West Broadway. This will be across 2 levels, including a full-service bar, restaurant, as well as corporate hospitality area as well. They had a pre-hearing with the Plan Commission back in June of this year, and are coming through for formal consideration later in the month here. They're expecting If everything goes well, they have a goal of being open in early 2026 for that. A couple projects that you may have seen around the city that are currently under construction. Residential projects, we have the North Point project on East Broadway, just south of the Menards. That is a 75-unit workforce housing development that is progressing well. They're actually looking for their first townhome building to potentially be occupied this month, and they'll have full occupancy by the end of the year. So you may have seen that there's the main apartment building, but also 2 townhome buildings as well, with 12 units total across those as well. Excited for that. It's been a really great partnership with the developer, and looking forward to that opening. Additionally, the MESBA project, which is on West Broadway, corner of West Broadway and Bridge, that is currently under construction. That'll be 45 units total, including live-work units that will be sort of on the ground floor with, so commercial on the ground floor, residential above. Those are condo units, and they're currently listed for sale, I believe, and I know there's been a lot of interest with those. Sort of the vision for that, I think what the developer is thinking is that would be small businesses looking to own their own space, potentially an accountant or a law firm or something like that would have sort of a small space on the ground floor, and then would have that residential unit that would be connected above as well. Included with that building, there was also just over 3,000 square feet of dedicated commercial space, and the Plan Commission just approved affiliated dentists to move from River Place over to that space as well once this is complete. So excited to see them staying in Monona and investing in the community, moving into that space. And the third residential building under construction right now is actually on Monona Drive. This is at the corner of West Dean Avenue and Monona Drive, the entire block there. It's a 98-unit development named The Bloom that is now underway. You may have seen some of the work in the street, and it's been fenced off there. This includes residential units, the 98 units, but also ground floor commercial, and will be the new location of the BMO Bank as well. So the corner there of West Dean and Monona will be the bank, and there's a couple other dedicated ground floor commercial spaces there as well. So looking forward to seeing that come under construction, and again, I think that'll be sort of a 12 to 18-month construction period is kind of the plan there for that. Most recently, there was the Madison Pediatric Dental had their grand opening. That is the former Rutabaga site. It really is a great project. I was lucky to have a tour through the building, and I think they've done a great job there. And again, excited to see a Monona institution staying here and investing in the community, and really doing a nice job. A lot of green initiative, solar on the roof, and sort of other elements to that project as well. And then finally, just wanted to bring up that on Monday night, the City Council approved the creation of 7 new tax increment districts within the city. This is a project that's been going on for quite a long time with the Community Development Authority. A lot of planning and discussion have kind of gone into this. It sort of builds on the discussion here of how can we help incentivize and assist with the redevelopment of the sites in the city. We really looked sort of citywide at opportunities, conversations I've had with developers, with sites that may need assistance. The city is limited by the amount of the sort of a headroom capacity here for districts, limited by the amount of incremental value within TIDS as a percentage of municipal total equalized value. So this was an opportunity to sort of strategically look through the districts here, and be able to assist with future developments. We already know probably 3 or 4 of them at least. We have development projects that are probably coming in within the next year, I would say. But really an opportunity to sort of assist with that, for the city to be able to target these areas, and again sort of diversify their opportunity for support there as well. So that was unanimously, each of those districts was approved by City Council on Monday, and that'll be coming to the Joint Review Board later in the month as well. And happy to answer any questions. Any questions from folks?
Yeah.
Yep.
Any rumblings about what they're going to do at 100 and 200 River Place? Anything you can share?
So that was actually one of the districts that was created on Monday night that's being envisioned there. So very early discussions at this point, nothing formal has been submitted, but I would imagine the district itself is being created as a mixed-use district. There are different sort of elements or different categories that these can come through in. So this has come through as mixed use. I would expect to see some housing element there, but certainly looking to sort of balance that with the commercial needs that we have within the city, but also what's already there. So I would expect, the county, really the state as a whole, has a housing shortage. So I would expect to see some housing proposed there, but nothing formal at this point.
So DSI has told the tenants that they're gonna raise the buildings. Essentially, they're not renewing leases, but have given, there's been varying degrees of, timelines given on that, and there are tenants in those buildings that have long-term leases, certainly further out than a year or two, which is really interesting because those tenants don't know. I'm just trying to suss out maybe what a timeline might look like over there.
Yeah, I know that it can often be tricky with that, with sort of multi-tenant leases within the building and sort of the timing and work on that. City staff has sort of had preliminary discussions, but with these, it's often, there's multiple factors. There's the financing opportunities, there's any sort of TIF component, but also potential relocation of tenants and things like that. But I would say, at least, the preliminary discussions, the city values that commercial area down there. It's an important opportunity there for big and small businesses. And, I think that sort of seeing that balance there would be important. So certainly expecting some housing component to that. The timing of that, is a little more to the developer than the city specifically, but would hope to see those either relocated, within the center, within River Place generally, or within Monona as a whole, would be our hope.
Any other questions for anyone here?
We frequently get phone calls about the new developments, especially the one over at Menards. We've tried to put them in touch with the developer. Is there a management company or something that's handling the rentals?
Yeah, so specifically with that development over there, I'm going to be sort of sharing an email with city staff. I know we've been getting phone calls as well about sort of the leasing opportunities and things like that. I know they've just opened applications for that development, so when I share that, I can pass that along to MESBA as well, so you have that information. I would say generally, any of these sites, any other questions that you have, on our website, we keep a web page, the development plans web page that is frequently updated. So if you want to look at any of the layouts, the renderings of these developments and get a little more information, just mymonona.com/development plans, and you'll be able to go there, and that's frequently updated. So take a look.